Kscope 2015 in Florida.
So we're here at ODTUG in sunny Florida and at the ODTUG Kscope 15. I'm here with Martin De Souza, who is Oracle ODTUG Director and an Oracle ACE Director. Yeah. So, man, you're directors all over the place.
I know. I have a lot of checks to sign.
There we go, excellent. So, great conference. I mean, I was speaking to both Mike and Monty, and they said it's off to a great start. Love it, great location. Guys are energized. Joel did the APEC Symposium yesterday, hit it out of the park with the let's wreck this together. High energy conference. What's your take on it so far?
I think so too. It's especially with the Apex group, we've had one of the largest turnouts ever for Apex as a primary track. And definitely Joel kicked it off really well. I think he really rallied the troops. A lot of people sometimes open the first session on Sunday morning maybe with a bit of technical thing, new features and stuff, and Joel took a very different approach, and I think that's really set the stage for the rest of the conference, and I think really for the Apex community as a whole for the rest of the year. It's really told us that we've got to rally together and spread the word.
Excellent. Now, I've kind of been tracking you. You know, I always watch you guys in the ACES and that, and I noticed your open source GitHub repository. What's the exact URL on it?
So the actual name is, the easy way to go is look at oraopensource.com. So it's oraopensource.com. And that's the primary website that we have a blog and I'll keep up to date all the new projects that are going on, but then our GitHub account is actually linked from there. That's probably the easiest way to go about it. Just in case, it's github.com/oraopensource as well.
Excellent. And I know one of the projects you have there is a logger. So it's a PL SQL editor, debugger. What exactly is it and why did you create it?
Okay, so Logger's actually been around for a very long time. It was started by Tyler Muth, who works for Oracle as well. And he started it a long time ago. He moved it to GitHub, and then I took it over. I really worked on it probably for 2 years ago, and then moved it over to Aura Open Source recently. So Logger itself is an open source logging platform, and the real premise behind it is a lot of people in organizations were creating their own logging platform. And though there's nothing wrong with that, most companies only have 5, 6, 7 developers, and everyone was doing their own implementation of a logging platform, when in reality you only need one. Yeah, and it's unfortunately the database doesn't have one. So Tyler started this project, and I've really tried to enhance it. And the goal is really to make it as easy as possible. Some organizations, I worked for one that just to write one log statement, you had to write 5, 10 lines of code. It was confusing. And so what happened was developers didn't want to log. And so when errors happened, they had no clue, and it just made life a lot more complicated. So with Logger now, it's as easy as possible, as you want it to be, or complicated, or as complicated. Sorry, can you cut that out?
That's fine.
It's as easy or as hard as you want it to be, but you can log a lot of different information. And on the business side, what we've seen is I've gone into some organizations and problems that were taking three days to debug because they were very complex, the structure was complex. People were now knocking down to 3 hours or 30 minutes simply because they had all the logging information. So I strongly encourage people out there who's never heard of it or have their own implementation to use it. The other real benefit for business case is if we as a community all start using Logger, then when you switch companies or get new employees on, everyone knows that system, right? That's the most difficult thing, is when you have all these custom solutions in your organization, you've got to train up people to use it. Whereas Logger, now it's open source, it's entirely free. If someone else comes into your organization and has used it before, it's not new code, they don't have to learn new lessons, they could just start using it and get up and running.
So Tyler's actually presenting at the conference,
he presented yesterday
at the symposium on the database development side.
Yes.
Excellent, and I saw that he actually had a contribution on the site just fairly recently. Can anybody contribute?
Yeah, so the way GitHub works, it's anyone can contribute, so you can just go to the repository. We have a bunch of issues, so you can actually see the next several release cycles that we've planned out. anyone can contribute. What happens, you make a pull request, and then someone on the team that's a developer admin essentially will either approve it or send it back for some suggestions. And that's really the great thing about open source is I don't know everything, you don't know everything, Tyler doesn't know everything.
Well, that's for certain in my case.
But as a community as a whole, we get a lot more people, and it's really been interesting since we started this site of, and not just Logger, there are other projects that we're getting more and more people coming up with some great ideas, and we're just constant, the product is really growing as a whole because of that. And another case is we have a build script now on one of the projects, and the build script is for people to install Oracle XE, Oracle APEX, and ORDS.
I saw that. That was excellent.
All in one thing. And if you've ever done this in Linux, it can take days.
It takes some tweaking.
It takes a lot of time because there's all these configurations you have to worry about. And so I had some scripts and files on my computer I'd had for years, and I said, this is ridiculous, I'm always redoing it. So I've put it on, and then we had a guy from Trent Schaefer from Australia. He's been a huge help, and Adrian Ping from Vancouver. So you can see it's completely global, that they're helping build up. And now we've got this thing that could take you 3 days if you knew nothing about it. You fill in some blanks of, you have to enter in some file URLs, and 30 minutes later you have a full XE machine with APEX 5 and ORDS 3, we try and keep up to date. And I think that's really great for developers who don't get all the chance at work maybe to try the latest and greatest. Now they can build these machines on the side and get up and running. And
I love the fact that you've got that ease of access. A lot of the content you were focusing on is, okay, let's just get this started. Let's get it up and running. What's the bare minimum? What's the easiest way of doing that? And so that's great. And you heard the call to action. Anybody can help out with the GitHub repository. So.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'd like to put in some other plugs. We're coming out with something called OOS Utils soon. It's in planning stage. The project is already out there, and we're just going to start developing some packages of common utilities that you're going to use in PL SQL. And we're always looking for people to please come out and help. Just even if you can only do one function, that's all we need. If everyone contributes, or look at if you want to make suggestions, that's great too. Any help is great.
Great. Now, you've got two great sessions at the conference, at least two that I noticed. One was on Apex 10 top features, and the other was on the Apex plugins. Now, I caught the development guys during the symposium talking about, and Shakib and Mark and Joel and a bunch of the guys were talking about how extensible Apex 5 is now. In terms of features, you've obviously played around with it. I know you have already because you're just that type of guy. What's your take on it? Is it really that extensible? Have they made that much of a major change in the theme roller and making it easier?
It's a game changer. So the Apex 5 theme roller is the new UI platform that you can change colors. And as simple as that sounds to maybe the business user, of like, oh, I just want to change colors, it's actually it was a tough thing for developers to do in older versions of Apex. And I've had numerous requests of clients say, hey, I want to change this blue to purple or something. And it's actually very complicated in the old system of where there was all these different versions of blue. How did you do it? The new Apex 5, I couldn't be any easier. And it allows me as a developer to really focus on solving business problems. That's what we get hired to do. And if all we need to do is change a color from blue to purple or to red, that's all I have to do. 3 clicks or something and I'm done. And I can go back to solving the business problem. And I think the business users are loving it because you can do rapid applications, you can get it customized however they want to see it, and it looks really modern too. Shakib's has done a phenomenal job. You've taken this thing that looked very Oracle-ish or Apex-ish, and you've made it look just like all the other websites out there, all the modern websites, and it's amazing to show and demo to people.
Excellent. And the last time that I interviewed you, it was with you and Roel Hartman. And I had you two guys go head-to-head with web response, the responsive design versus Apex Mobile. And when do you want to do both? I noticed that they did a ton of new features with Mark Suits and a whole bunch of those guys showing new features in that area. Is your decision still the way? Either or what do you think of that space now with Apex 5?
When we were doing an interview, Roel was going on the mobile side, I was going on the responsive design. It all comes down to the business case. I think for the responsive design part, it's great. You can create one site and it will shrink and collapse essentially with the size of the screen. And for those that are making public sites, that's really important because Google now is going to penalize you if your site is not responsive.
Oh, wow.
So for internal company apps, maybe not that important, but now if you have a public application out there that that's either your company website or people log into, you will get penalized on Google because it's not responsive.
Wow.
So this plays a bigger thing in the grand scheme
I
of
hadn't
things.
heard that. How are they going to
Yes.
penalize you?
They'll just put you lower priority.
In the rankings.
In the rankings, exactly. You'll still show up, but you might not be on page 1, and there's a huge difference between
That's
page
huge.
1 and page
Absolutely.
N, right?
Page 2 or anything else after,
yeah. So that's one big thing, and mobile's great, right? It's great to have a mobile app, but sometimes you might not always need that.
Yeah.
And it's still a great thing there for people that want it, and you create a smaller
Yeah.
version of your application, but sometimes people don't have the money or the time to actually develop both of them.
Yeah.
So responsive is just a quick solution in the meantime.
Nice. And I saw that, what is your top feature? That's probably all that. You've got 10 top features. We probably don't have not that much time for it, but what is your top feature for Apex?
I really think theme
Apex
roller.
5.
I think theme roller. I'll give you two. The theme roller
Okay.
is the big thing, and it's what the clients don't see is the development interface now. Everything used to be wizard driven. So if you wanted to change an item, you had to 5 clicks just to change the title of an item. Now you can do everything very quickly. You can make a lot of changes and then save them after. I don't know if you got to see the developer instance, but it is, and they're dubbing it as the most powerful IDE online, and it really is. It's going to be a game changer.
The new page designer and Apex 5.
Yeah.
That is excellent. I love it, yeah.
Again, it makes my life easier. I'm really there to solve business problems, and I don't want to be fighting if one thing's to the left of the other thing or to the right of the other thing. Now it's so easy to do that, and I can focus on what is the problem, how am I going to solve it.
Excellent. Martin, it's always great to speak
Thank
with
you. It's
you.
always a
Enjoy the
pleasure
rest of the
talking.
conference here.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.